that separation between the deciders and the doers, that's precisely what we're jumping into today. We are looking at the foundational principle of project governance, specifically through a very strict organizational lens.
Okay.
Our mission here is to really unpack the rigid boundary that separates governance, which is on the outside, from project execution on the inside. And this
Yeah.
isn't just, bureaucratic fluff.
Yeah.
It's an essential firewall for accountability.
And because we want you to walk away with something that just sticks, something instantly memorable, we've got a concept that unlocks this whole deep dive.
A memory hook.
The ultimate memory hook. It's simply this: governance decides, projects comply.
That's it. If you understand that strict, non-negotiable directive, you understand who's setting the rules and, well, who's executing within them.
Okay, let's unpack this. And we have to start with the rule that I think might feel a little counterintuitive, especially if you're a high-performing project manager.
Mm-hmm.
The foundational principle says governance exists only outside the project. You, the project manager, you do not govern. Your role is strictly, what? Compliance and execution.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Governance is defined by ownership and authority. They're the ones holding the strategic purse strings. They're asking the big questions like, does this project still align with our 5-year corporate strategy? And if the answer changes halfway through, it is governance's job to adjust that strategy, not the PM's job to redefine it on the fly.
Okay, so we need to put some faces to these external decision makers. The source material points to 2 really critical layers of authority outside the project.
It does. At the very highest level, you have portfolio governance. This is the group looking across all potential investments, projects, programs, operations, everything. They decide which strategic initiatives get funded in the first place.
So portfolio governance is deciding which mountains to climb. They choose the mission.
That's a perfect way to put it. Then just below that, but still external to your individual project, you have program governance.
Okay.
So if the portfolio group decide, we need to climb these 3 related mountains, the program governance group is the one managing those 3 projects together. They're making sure all the pieces work in harmony to get a bigger benefit than any single project could on its own.
So these 2 groups, portfolio and program governance, they are the external architects.
Yes.
They set the mandate. They establish the strategic guardrails. And the project manager's job, your job, if you're listening, is to take that mandate and execute within those established non-negotiable rules.
Yeah.
If the goal is to make X profit, you can't just decide to change X.
And what's really crucial to understand is that the external nature of this, it actually protects the PM.
How so?
By placing that strategic decision-making outside, you ensure the PM can focus 100% on delivery without being paralyzed by constantly second-guessing the fundamental why of the work.
But wait, if they are external, how does that strategic decision actually, flow into the projects? This can't just be a verbal handoff.
No, absolutely not. It's channeled through very specific documents.
Okay, so what are they? What are these documents that start life outside but become the PM's Bible on the inside?
That's where the structure gets really fascinating. Governance creates these decision artifacts, which then become the starting inputs for the project. And there are 2 that are absolutely fundamental. They're like the strategic proof of life for the project.
The proof of life, I like that.
First up is the business case.
Right.
This is developed by the governance layers. It's the core justification document. It outlines why the project is necessary, the high-level goals, and, of course, the projected return on investment. It answers that one crucial strategic question: why are we doing this?
The business case is pretty much the financial and strategic contract then. It says, if you do this, we believe this specific outcome will happen.
Precisely. And flowing directly from that is the second critical document, the benefits management plan.
Yeah.
This is also developed externally. And if the business case is the why, this is the how and when. It's the roadmap for value realization. It defines exactly how we're going to measure, track, and actually realize those benefits long after the project itself is done.
So business case explains the potential reward, and the benefits management plan explains the strategy for actually claiming it. That must be an incredibly tight connection for the project manager.
It is. And here's the technical link that just locks it all down. Both the business case and the benefits management plan are explicitly cited as inputs to develop the project charter.
Ah, okay, the charter.
The charter, the very document that officially authorizes the project and appoints the PM. So you, the project manager, you literally cannot start your job until the strategic deciders have created these 2 documents. They translate their ownership into your marching orders.
That's a powerful metaphor. The outside groups create the contract, and the inside group, the PM, uses that contract to get the green light to start spending money.
That's the flow.
So now let's shift entirely into the project manager's bubble. You've got your charter, you've got the mandate. Your role is usage only, not governance.
Correct.
And this is where we hit that tension, right?
Okay.
The challenge I think a lot of listeners probably face in the real world. The framework is so strict here. So what can the PM absolutely not do?
Okay. The big rule is they do not approve, own, or change the business case, the benefits management plan, or any of those underlying strategic rules. That's the firewall.
That's the firewall.
That is the most important constraint. I mean, the PM is the general in the field, not the monarch on the throne.
Right.
If the PM suddenly realizes 3 months into a multi-million-dollar project that the business case assumed cheap materials that are now, say, impossible to source, the PM can't just rewrite the business case to show lower profits.
They can't. So what do?
They have to execute, but the moment they see a fundamental threat to those founding principles, they have to raise the flag to the governance layer immediately.
Okay, so if the PM doesn't own or change the rules, what are they actually doing?
They're taking those governance artifacts and using them as inputs and constraints. They are making sure every single decision on the ground aligns with realizing those benefits and sticking to the strategic justification that was laid out externally.
I see.
And this adherence, it's complex because they're not just dealing with the project-specific documents like the business case. They're also dealing with the ambient reality of the organization.
The environment, right.
Exactly. Which brings us to the two other critical external factors that act as the boundaries of the PM's universe.
Let's get into those. Let's start with the big one. The external constraints that the PM absolutely cannot negotiate. The enterprise environmental factors, or EEFs.
EEFs are, they're the unchangeable reality the project has to live inside. If the business case explains why you're doing the project, the EEFs explain what world you have to do it in.
Okay. Give us a tangible example. Something that makes a PM's life miserable.
Oh, easy. Think about a global pharmaceutical project. Suddenly, a new government regulation, say, in the EU, mandates a whole new set of data privacy rules. That new law is an EEF.
You don't get to debate it.
You don't get to debate it. You just have to redesign your system to comply. Or maybe a global recession hits, interest rates spike, and suddenly your financing is way more expensive than budgeted. That economic condition is an EEF constraint. You have to deal with it.
So EEFs are the legal, economic, physical reality. The rules of the road that constrain the project, even if governance didn't explicitly write them down.
Precisely. They are external factors that act as constraints. You have to adhere to the law, the market rate, the existing organizational culture, even if that culture is resistant to change. All EEFs.
Okay, so those are the constraints. Then we get to the organization's standardized toolkits, the second key factor. Organizational process assets, or OPAs. How do these differ from EEFs?
It's a great question. While EEFs are things you can't change, OPAs are things you must use.
Ah, subtle distinction.
It is. OPAs are the internal resources the organization provides to help you run the project smoothly and consistently. These include the organization's existing standards, templates, and historical data.
Okay, so if the EEF is the government saying, you must use the specific fire-resistant material, the OPA is the organization saying, and here is our standard, company-approved template for documenting which material you chose.
That's a perfect distinction. An OPA might be the company's required risk register template, the quality standards manual every product has to follow, and this one is crucial, historical data from similar past projects that helps you make better estimates. They're assets for you to use, but they're owned by the organization. They enforce consistency.
And this is where that strategic connection really comes full circle for you, the listener. If we just visualize this architecture, you have the outside group's portfolio and program governance.
Right.
They create the strategic mandate. They channel that mandate through the key documents, the business case, the benefits management plan. They also maintain the environment, the EEFs, and the toolkits, the OPAs.
And the inside group, the project manager and their team, takes that entire apparatus, treats it all as non-negotiable input and binding constraints, and just executes the plan in strict compliance.
It creates a perfect accountability firewall.
It does.
The rigidity of this separation is what I find most interesting. I mean, why must that firewall be so absolute? What's the real danger if the PM could just unilaterally change the business case?
If we connect that to the bigger picture, Honestly, the entire strategic alignment of the organization could just collapse. The rigidity prevents something we call strategic drift.
Strategic drift.
Yeah. If a project manager, facing some difficulties on the ground, just decides to redefine the project's purpose or lower the expected benefits without any oversight, they're undermining the entire organizational investment strategy.
They've gone rogue.
In a strategic sense, yes. The PM's authority is execution, quality, schedule. It is not strategic decision-making. Governance protects shareholder value. It protects the mission. It ensures the project stays aligned with the original justification for its existence, which is why we keep coming back to that one powerful principle.
Let's hear it one more time.
Governance decides, projects comply.
That memory hook, it just captures the entire power dynamic in a single phrase. It frames that relationship perfectly. Strategic vision flows from the outside, and execution has to flow compliantly on the inside.
That's the model.
So, to summarize the essential learning nugget for you, project authority governance is non-negotiably external. It lives with those portfolio and program layers. And this external authority sets the absolute parameters for internal execution. The PM's job is strictly usage and compliance within those parameters.
Which this raises a very important question, and it's the challenge that really defines real-world project management.
Go on.
If governance decides and projects comply, and the project manager cannot approve or change those founding documents, what specific recognized mechanisms exist for the PM to communicate unexpected real-world challenges back up to the governance level? They can't just operate in a vacuum. How does a PM ethically and structurally force the deciders to reevaluate the mandate when they don't actually have the authority to change the documents themselves?
That is a great challenge to leave you with. Think about the channels you use, or maybe the ones you should be using, to communicate those big challenges upward in your own organization. Understanding that separation of power is really the first step to influencing it.
For anyone out there prepping for the PMP exam, this topic is now front and center.
Absolutely.
Especially with the huge changes in the PMBOK 8th edition, which just came out in November 2025. So we're going to unpack how governance is positioned, who is involved, and why this new emphasis is just so critical.
It really is. And it's a topic that often gets a bad rap.
Right. Red tape.
Exactly.
Oh.
You mentioned governance, and people just immediately think of bureaucracy, processes slowing everything down. But the reality, and this is what the new standards really lay out, is that governance is the essential layer of strategic control. It's not just bureaucracy. It is the definitive set of strategic guardrails that ensure accountability, maintain compliance, and most critically guarantee every project stays aligned with the organization's vision. It's what takes project success beyond just hitting a deadline.
Okay, so let's unpack that then. If we're looking at this new framework, what's the big thing that jumps out in PMBOK? Because it feels like governance isn't hidden in the footnotes anymore.
That is the single biggest conceptual shift. Project governance is now formally defined as a dedicated key performance domain.
A whole domain.
A whole domain. And that is a powerful move away from where it used to be, which was much more implicit. For instance, in PMBOK 7, the idea was sort of baked into a principle, like stewardship.
Right.
Now, it has its own space. It covers the structures, the processes, responsibilities, all the decision-making frameworks you use to direct, control, and oversee projects, from the very beginning right through to the end.
So dedicating a whole domain to it, that's not just PMI shuffling terms around. It's them saying, you must proactively build these capabilities. Yes.
It's an organizational skill, not just a checklist.
Exactly. And the sources really stress that this domain is flexible. This isn't a return to, rigid waterfall checklists. Governance has to be tailored. If you're managing a massive multi-year infrastructure project, okay, your governance is going to be highly formalized. But if you're running a fast, agile software sprint, your governance structure might just be daily stand-ups and transparent information radiators.
So it can include things like AI-driven tools and PMO support.
Yes, all of that. The guardrail needs to fit the road you're driving on. That's the key.
That makes perfect sense. So if tailoring is key, let's talk about positioning. The source material calls governance the Steersman.
Steersman, yeah.
Where exactly does the Steersman sit within the organization's whole framework?
That positioning is crucial to understanding its power. Project governance sits at a strategic level, but it's also deeply integrated. It operates above the day-to-day work of, say, an individual project manager.
Yeah. But it sits below the highest tier, which is your enterprise or corporate governance. That's the level that sets the company's whole mission, its ethical framework.
So it's the connecting piece.
It's the critical connecting piece. You can see it as a vertical alignment that forms what the sources call the system for value delivery.
The system for value delivery. I like that.
Right. The reason it's the Steersman is because it connects the top and the bottom. The corporate level sets the direction. The project governance level, our focus, translates that into actionable oversight.
Usually through a PMO or a sponsor.
Right. And then finally, the operational level just executes the work within those guidelines. If that governance piece in the middle breaks down, the project team can be perfectly efficient.
But they could be building the entirely wrong thing.
Exactly. Delivering the wrong product perfectly on time.
And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. Because that smooth vertical alignment often creates a ton of horizontal friction.
Oh, absolutely.
You have project governance, which needs speed and collaboration colliding with operational governance.
That is the core conflict. Operational governance, think of your department heads, your functional managers, that's all optimized for stability.
For their own silos.
For their silos, for their fiscal budgets. Project governance, on the other hand, has to be optimized for project velocity and delivering value across those silos.
And the sources highlight this as a common failure point, right? When projects stall because decision makers are wearing the wrong hat.
We've all been in that meeting.
Right.
The finance VP who can't stop thinking about their own Q3 spending limits.
Instead of the project's long-term business case.
Right. And when that happens, the operational priority always overrides the strategic one. And the project just grinds to a halt.
So how do you solve that? If departmental budgets always win, how do the sources say we give project governance the authority it needs to break through?
The answer is in establishing a structured decision-making authority that sort of transcends departmental lines. Effective governance means you have to proactively create these multidisciplinary bodies, steering committees, advisory boards, with explicitly defined power.
Power to operate outside the normal hierarchy.
Precisely. That gives the project the institutional weight it needs to get things done.
Okay, so if friction is the problem, then the foundational pillars must be the solution. What are those three key pieces?
They're symbiotic. If one is weak, the whole thing just falls apart. So first you have structure. This is the formal organizational backbone. The committees, the boards, the rules.
The blueprint.
The blueprint, exactly. It establishes authority and clear reporting lines. Second, you have people.
Right, because a perfect structure with the wrong people is useless.
Totally useless. This is about key role sponsors, steering committees, key stakeholders who are assigned specific accountability and decision rights. This is about ownership.
Okay. Structure, people, and the third.
Information, the lifeblood. These governance bodies can't make smart decisions in a vacuum. They need accurate, timely data.
Status updates, risk reports, budget insights.
All of it. It ensures transparency and objectivity. The whole system relies on those three being in balance.
So with that architecture in place, let's focus on the key people, the ones holding the accountability. These roles are strategic, not just admin.
Oh, absolutely. The success of the governance structure is defined by the accountability of these players. First up, the project sponsor. This person is the strategic owner. Usually a senior executive who champions the project owns the business case.
And they step in when things go wrong?
Yes, they resolve issues that are beyond the project manager's authority, like conflicts over resources between departments.
So if a project needs to be canceled because the market shifted, that's the sponsor's call.
It's the sponsor's call, along with the board. The PM is responsible for operational control, for executing the project under the framework. The sponsor is making the strategic calls for the project.
Okay, that's a clear distinction. What about the steering committee?
They're the high-level oversight body. Their job is broad, approving the budget strategy, monitoring portfolio risks, resolving conflicts that get escalated by the sponsor.
And they rely on a key artifact here, the Terms of Reference, or TOR.
Yes, and that TORS is critical. It's not just some memo. It's the document that formally defines their roles, how often they meet, their limits of authority. It codifies their power.
It gives them legitimacy. And the last piece of the people puzzle, the PMO.
The Project Management Office.
Yeah.
They often act as the governance custodian.
Custodian.
Yeah, they're the functional unit that sets the standards, provides the templates and the tools, the dashboards, and they make sure that the whole governance framework is maintained and applied consistently across projects.
They're the enforcers of the system.
You could say that, yeah.
This all suggests a really major philosophical shift. It feels like the main role of governance has moved away from being just compliance heavy, just checking boxes, to being deeply value-centric. What does that mean in practice?
It means the focus is on the outcome over the output. If governance used to ask, did you follow the process? Now it asks, is this project still delivering the intended business value?
That's a huge change.
It is. And the three core roles reflect this. First, value delivery. Governance sets success criteria at the start and then constantly checks if the project is delivering tangible benefits. Second, decision-making. It provides the mechanisms for making those tough, gonna-go decisions based on clear KPIs.
Not on gut feelings.
Not on gut feelings. And third, accountability.